Alright guys, last video talked about soldering. Now, I didn't get into the other step of solder, and that is flux, and it's one of the important steps. Now, I'm going to get some hate comments and troll comments from the professional plumbers that are the best in the world about why I didn't sand my fittings or the pipe that it's going on, because in the last probably 20 years I have not sanded copper when it's new copper or new brass. I have not sanded it in probably 20 years. I work for the same guy that I build a lot of stuff for the last 14 years, and I've done a lot of copper soldering for him and his projects, and I have not had one failure yet. The 6 years before I started working for him in the plumbing companies, I stopped sanding. I used to get a lot of flack from the plumbing owner and stuff about if I get callbacks, I'm doing it for free, blah blah blah, and it just doesn't happen. It's not necessary with the new Flux if you get the right flux. This one's no corrode. It's all I could find here in Miami. It's my second go-to because it is no corrode. You don't have to worry about that green oxidation that C-Flux, which is my go-to, causes if you don't wipe everything down real good and rinse all the C-Flux off. With no corrode, you can wipe it down with some water. It actually will make it shinier, even brass. No corrode, like the name says, it's not supposed to corrode, turn green on you, blah blah blah. C-Flux will, but C-Flux is the best that I've ever found because of it's got an acid in it, and it etches copper and brass so that solder will stick, and that's why you don't need to sand. Now, no corrode will do the same thing. It does say on the jar that they recommend brush and sand your fittings. Like I said, I haven't done that in probably 20 years. I use no corrode, especially on restaurants, in the kitchens on restaurants, your 3-compartment sinks, your dishwashers, all that stuff. Most health departments will not let you use PVC drains under them. So I run copper. I'll run them in copper, and the reason I use no corrode is because what it does to copper once you heat it up. When you put a little bit of heat to copper with some no corrode smeared on it, it will make it look like a shiny new penny. What I usually do, and here's another trade secret I'll let out, when I solder all that up and get done with it underneath the 3-compartment sink, I'll come back with a rag, dip it in my no corrode, and smear it all over that copper. I mean, all the pipe, all the fittings, everything. And then I'll take a torch and a wet rag, wet the rag real good, and I'll just heat it up, just warm it up. All you got to do is just warm up that pipe. But you will notice it when you start warming it up. You'll see the chemical reaction right off the bat. When it'll start shining that copper, and then you just take your wet rag and wipe it, and boom, it looks like a brand new penny. Then I'll take a spray can of clear coat, and I'll spray all that copper down to lock it all in, to keep the elements off of it, and it will look like a shiny penny for several years. Anyways, let's get to fluxing. Now, the flux, you do not want a lot of flux. You just want a thin coating. I've seen people on YouTube where they just blob this shit on there, and too much flux is not good. You are causing, I guess, a flooding of flux to puddle inside your fitting, and then you got no room for solder to flow down inside. So I put a thin coating, and as you can see, it's real thin. It's like just a film basically, and I do that, and that's how I flux my fittings. Okay guys, we'll end this video with another way of soldering, just so you can see I do not have to have it standing straight up and down. Get my torch and solder here, and same concept. One other thing I wanted to show you. Let me show you this flame. It's going to be loud. You've seen right there where the two different colors were. One darker blue, one lighter blue. You want to be just on the outside of that darker flame. That's where your heat works the best. Let's show you another way. I just got it jammed in here. This way is a little easier to do. You don't have to worry about knocking your fitting over on that side or whatever. Solder will still flow inside because it's following the heat, it's following the flux. So right there you've seen where I caused it to slide down. It's no big deal. Just knock it back on while it's still hot. And just to prove that solder will flow even when it's not sanded, because I know that's going to be one of your arguments. I'll pull this off and you'll see the solder all the way around that pipe. It that is completely soldered all the way around. The black specks is flux, so you can see why you don't want to use a lot of flux, but underneath those black specks is solder. So I can take the rag, wipe that away. See, solder is all the way around it. So yeah, I know that would be another argument. If you look inside this fitting, you don't have very much light, but it is full of solder even all the way around inside that fitting. The dark at the end is your flux. This is why you don't want to put a bunch of flux, blob it on there like some of these idiots do. So I'm just going to put a little flux on here since we took it apart. Shake it out. You don't want too much. This probably won't slide on. Nope, because our solder is balled up on the edge because we've got plenty of solder on it. Take a little heat. Get it to turn fluid. Slide it right up. Add a little heat. And apply solder. So once you see it start melting, you can take your heat away. You do not want too much heat. It will burn your flux. Too much heat will burn flux. See, we're still flowing. It's not cooled yet. On the bottom, it's going to leave a tit. Knock it off. There you go. It leaves a little drop at the bottom. If you take your solder, hold on to your fitting because you'll knock it off. And you just Clip it and it knocks that tit off. There you go, guys.